Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about creating a winning go-to-market talent strategy. And with me, I have Ifeoma. Ifeoma is the Chief Operations Officer at CareerBuddy. Hello, Ife.
Hi, Shimo. Thank you so much. Good to
Yes,
be here to talk about this with you.
thank you. Ife, please, could you introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ifeoma Martins. I am currently the Chief Operating Officer at CareerBuddy. Prior to my time at CareerBuddy, I was within the recruiting industry. Started off as a recruiting consultant or recruitment consultant through the ranks to the point of managing a subsidiary business in Ghana, Cameroon, and a whole of other sub-Saharan countries, and generally just helping with matchmaking good talents with great organizations. So I think that's what I'd say. In a nutshell, that's what I've done. I love to see talent grow. I love to see talent being positioned in the right places. And I also love to see how companies, can leverage the different markets that we have in terms of talent acquisitions as well. So that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ife.
Thank you.
Dive right into it. We have a couple of questions to ask, and just to hear your expert perspective on how to create a winning go-to-market strategy for when you're launching into new markets, for startups or companies, established companies launching into new markets. So the first question is, how does expanding into new markets impact talent acquisition strategies for tech companies?
I think this is something a lot of companies don't sort of let me not say a lot of companies, for startups in the tech space do not pay a lot of attention to how what the talent acquisition strategy for new markets should look like, and how do they go about building the right talent acquisition strategy for that market. And I think the first thing that has to be looked at is in terms of cultural differences. So the talent market in the different countries, in the different markets, are very different. Let me bring it down to Africa. The talent market within the Anglophone countries and the Francophone countries are very opposite. So there are cultural differences in the sense that in Anglophone countries, we have, would I say, an accepted way of work. And in the Francophone countries, they have their own accepted way of work. So if a business is it's expanding into, say, from a Francophone country into an Anglophone country, or from an Anglophone country to a Francophone country, there are things you have to be aware of. Examples are, in the Francophone countries, they take their lunch breaks very seriously, and the lunch breaks go for a longer period of time than we are used to in this side of the world. So our lunch breaks are usually 1 hour, but in the French countries, their lunch break is almost like a part of their lives, right? So you can have lunch breaks as long as 2 hours, 3 hours, and their businesses are actually closed down for that purpose, because everyone is going on lunch break, and so they're closed for a short period of time while everybody goes for their lunch break for a long period and then comes back. So these are some of the nuances that, culturally, businesses have to be aware of when they're expanding into new markets. You also have to be open to or understanding of what's the work-life balance in these markets are like, because this would help with structuring, or what sort of benefits are you putting in place for these roles in this market? What is going to be your work hours, per se? What's going to be like the overtime policy in this market for these roles or for your employees? So what are the communication styles in this market, and how are what's like the decision-making process? So over time, I have noticed that these things sort of influence how you go into markets that you have never, been involved with. And if you do not understand the cultural differences in the different markets you are stepping into, you would not, be able to take advantage of or be aware of all of the things you have to put in place before building, a winning talent acquisition strategy. Another thing is language barrier. Language barrier is not in the sense of language in its sense, but communication style. The Europeans, or some Europeans, say Austrian, German countries, they are very direct. They do not sugarcoat. Say also the British, they try to tell you the truth, but the British will tell you the truth in a nice way, and you don't even feel like you are hearing something bad. But say the Europeans, the German, the Austrians, the former, USSR countries are usually very, very direct. So you have to understand what the communication style for these markets are, so you do not feel like, oh, maybe an employee, someone you're trying to hire, someone you're trying to interview is probably rude or is probably sounding a bit off how you would want this person to sound. And what else do I want to also touch base on? And then also say legal and regulatory requirements. There are certain laws that govern how the labor market operates and how employees are allowed to do work in those markets. And for a business to even think of expanding or thrive in those places, you have to understand what the labor laws are, and you have to be able to build your strategy around those. So if the labor law stipulates that male employees have to, get 3 months of paternity leave, you have to adhere to those. So those are things that you have to put in place, or things you have to understand while going into those markets as well. And then I think lastly, I'll just quickly touch on competition for talent. There are markets where certain roles are very, very competitive. There are certain roles that you just would always find very few great guys in. So you have to understand what the markets in the different roles are saying, and how would you be able to compete in this market with the few resources in that market. So how do you compete? Are you looking at salaries? Are you looking at the benefits you provide? Are you looking at the opportunities on the role? Are you looking at what even trying to cater your benefits to suit that market and not use a one-size-fits-all? Say if a business is in Nigeria and the primary benefit here is usually pension, health insurance, right? So if you're going to a different market, is that what is also key in that market? What are the benefits that is more that the people in the market you're looking at expanding into have more preference for? Maybe it's more on having to leave work early so they're able to spend more time at home. Are you looking at, reducing your hours of work, say, or having a 4-day work week in a particular location? Are you looking at maybe transportation vouchers for people or in markets where there are there's a good transportation system? So you have to tier and build the resources that you can use to compete in a competitive market to be based on what is acceptable in that market and what would help you build a winning talent strategy specifically for the markets you are intending to expand into. So yes, those are my points.
Thank you so much, Ify. That was really, really explanatory. That was very explicit and comprehensive. So, like you mentioned, we know that remote companies, especially remote companies, they face a ton of challenges when recruiting global talent. And you've mentioned some of those challenges already. You talked about legal and regulatory compliance. Then there are and linguistic barriers, which is also a barrier to communication, and also competition for top talent. So can you share some of the practical approaches that you would prefer for building a talent acquisition strategy that aligns with entering new markets, especially for remote companies that are looking to build a team? So what they approach building their own talent acquisition strategy that would align with them entering into new markets?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for that question. First up, they have to start early. It takes time to be able to build a successful talent acquisition strategy for a new market, because as it is, or as should be, everything new comes with some challenges. So you have to start early. So you are able to plan, research, and tweak your tactical plan. Secondly, you have to be open-minded. Businesses usually have, a job description or a person specification. I think that's more about it. It's more on the person specification. Having a very, would I say, stringent person specification would not work when you're expanding into a new market. You have to be open-minded to be able to see what is available and what's attainable in the market you are trying to find talent in, and be open to tweaking one or few things. Okay, look at what is most important to you in that role. What must this person have, or what should this person be coming in with to be able to succeed on this role? And if there are things that are not deal breakers, which might make it a bit harder for you to find the right person in that market, you should be open to also trying to tweak, trying to look, okay, if I can find someone who has 70% of this, I'm happy to, train on 30%, or I'm happy to invest in the person to see how the person can grow into getting to the 100% that I'm looking at as well. Also, understanding the local market. This can help with, knowing what the cultural nuances are, the norms, understanding maybe the legal requirements and all of those things. A bit of market research helps here as well. And then also talking to local partners, recruiting agencies that are specific in that market. And this is very key, because nowadays there are a ton of people who are in the recruiting business. So you have to be sure to find the right people that align with your with what that have that have it in them to find you the sort of people you're looking for. And that's, to a good extent, are niche in that market and are able to give you industry advice on what is possible and what is not. I think finally, I would also touch base on, say, tailoring your messaging. What works in South Africa doesn't work in Nigeria. Every market is very dynamic in its own way, and you have to tailor how you want the message for your needs or your talent acquisition to be rightly met or rightly understood. So for us, or I'll say for a Nigerian market, and if you're targeting, say, Gen Zs, millennials, there is how your messaging can be crafted to be able to attract these people to even, help with just looking at what you're even trying to do, right? So you have to understand how to tailor your message to fit that market. Tailoring your message to fit the market would help with getting a lot of eyeballs. We're getting a lot of interest. We're getting a lot of people wanting to know a bit more about, okay, what is this business about? What is this company about? What sort of person are they looking for? And that's where you can get success with referrals, because having your messaging right and having it in front of the right people could get someone, okay, even if they're not qualified for that, or if they're overqualified and not interested in that opportunity, might send it to someone else who feel, oh, this might be good for you. Because also, at the end of the day, you're also trying to build your employer brand. And so it starts from the get-go, building up building your messaging and tailoring that message to fit that market would help with, building and consistently growing your new employer brand. And who knows where that could get to at the end of the day. So yeah, I think, those are my, say, 4 or 5 points on approaches businesses can use in building a successful talent acquisition for new markets.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ify. That was really insightful.
You.
And we're already even talking about, you are already digressing into, not digressing because it's still a part of the entire conversation, but you were already talking about leveraging local partnerships and collaborations to enhance talent acquisition efforts, which would lead me to my next question. And that would be how can tech companies leverage local partnerships or collaborations to enhance their talent acquisition efforts in new markets? So tech companies, for example, we companies to, we help tech companies to get tech talent in Africa. So what would be your recommendation to tech companies that want to leverage local partnerships or that are seeking to enter into new markets? Well, how would you advise them to leverage local partnerships to enhance their talent acquisition efforts in these new markets?
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think the key thing is to find the right partners, right? So, and these partners could cut across different cadres. It could be, you could start with the talent acquisition specialist in that country or in that market. That is, say, recruiting agencies, recruiting partners. You could leverage communities as well. You could leverage industry, say industry communities similar to, I think I would say people like the CIPNs, if you're looking to hire, say, HR person, that within that network as well. Examples of companies that I know have successfully done this is, I think, Microsoft was it? No, Google. Let me start with Google. So Google expanded to Kenya, and in doing so, partnered with a few on-ground companies in order to help with sourcing and giving them a bit more industry understanding of the talent market. And eventually, they came into the business, they came into the country, and were able to expand and just hire straight up. And I remember when Amazon was trying to expand into the Nigerian market, they worked with a company that understood the Amazon business, understood the sort of talents that Amazon was looking for in this market, and they were able to help with hiring or finding the sort of talents that they need. I know Microsoft also did that in India, where they actually even partnered with an institute of technology to help with I think it was to give them access to the best students and build like some sort of a relationship with certain stakeholders in the Indian tech ecospace. So in order to just move on or move into a new market, leveraging local talent, first find the right talent, find the right partners. So start off with the right recruiting partners for your business and who understands what you're trying to achieve. Find the right communities, find the right industry, or be a part of the industry ecosystem. That makes it easy for you to understand, the dynamism that comes with moving into the market, helps you with knowledge that you would need and advisory as well. Because it's one thing to see or to want to move into that market from afar. It's another thing to have people who are already in that market and can advise you. So some of the mistakes that could be made would not be, would not cost you so much. So having the right partners, recruiting partners, community partners, ecosystem partners, industry partners within this market would save a company a ton of headache while helping them build the right strategy in terms of talent to move into that market as well.
Thank you so much, Ife. That was
Thank
really, really
you.
knowing that you've been doing this for a good number of years now. Can you share any success stories or best practices from tech companies that have effectively navigated their talent acquisition challenges in new markets? And I would definitely prefer something from your own personal experience. I'll prefer a success story from your own personal experience,
Okay.
right? So share any of those with us.
Okay. Um, so I think I would say one that has stood out for me is there was a point in my career I was part of a UN project which was funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to it was a polio eradication project across Africa. So we had to um, help this organization, which is the UN, with Bill and Melinda Gates and other project partners to find talent and build the talent within different remote places in Africa. And it was a tough one because these places are very remote and they're not like city per se. And having to sort of find and build out a talent acquisition process for a business, for a company that is going into a rural place is a bit tricky. I think what I would say that stood out for me was the fact that I found the right local partners. I was able to connect with people who sort of made the work easier and made the journey a lot easier. So for everywhere we had to expand to, for every country or every city within the different countries that we went to, I was able to find the right partner who was able to share information on what's acceptable there, how to go about finding people, what the going rate was, the best rate to give, what sort of benefits would work for that market. And being that a lot of these places were francophone countries, so it was very different from working in the anglophone country where the labor law is more is works on the company side rather. But on the francophone side of things, the labor law it's really an employee labor law. Like it works to the benefit of the employee, not the employer, as against how it is on the anglophone side of things. So having that knowledge helped with being able to build out the talent expansion into these countries and helped with making sure that this project ran for the period of time it ran on for, and it was successful. So I think I would say that having the right local partner really helped me with making sure that the UN project I was working on with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was successful. So that's my personal success story on that.
Amazing. That's really, really, really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I was going
Thank
to
you
just
so much.
about CareerBuddy's recruiting service and how you
Mm-hmm.
could partner with CareerBuddy as a talent acquisition partner if you are
Mm-hmm.
launching the African market. But as I have you here, so I would rather you tell us, because that would be more,
Okay.
that would be so. Could you, just in a brief few minutes, just explain to us about how companies who are looking to expand into new markets, especially markets in Africa, can
Mm-hmm.
partner with CareerBuddy?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl. For companies looking to expand into the African continent, CareerBuddy is your go-to talent partner. We have successfully helped and advised as well businesses expanding into this climb in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Egypt, in Kenya, Rwanda, in Zimbabwe as well, South Africa, Morocco, and most recently in Zambia. So we have the right resources, we have the right experts across this market to advise, to help with putting together, okay, what should your talent strategy look like in this market? What are the benefits you should be looking out for? What are things you should generally be looking out for should you be, interested in expanding to this climb? So over time, we've successfully worked with companies across the African continent and helped them with, finding, building, managing, talent across the continent. And it's something that we understand. And we know that within the continent, the markets are still very different. You can't compare the Nigerian market with the Kenyan market or the South African market. And we have this understanding, and we have, industry experts on our team to also help with advisory on the different cadres of building your talent acquisition strategy within this market. So should you be looking at, expanding across the African continent, either you're a foreign company coming into Africa, or you are a local African company expanding across other countries in Africa, we are the go-to talent acquisition partner. You would love to talk to us, and we would just make your job and make it a lot easier for you to build out a winning strategy across these markets.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So if you contact us at CareerBuddy, you could just visit www.thecareerbuddy.com or send an email to lily@thecareerbuddy.com, and you get a response almost immediately. Thank you so much, Ify. This was a really amazing time. I mean,
thank you, Shimu.
Yeah, I will make it.
Thank you.